Welcome to the not Cardmarket Coliseum. We're not doing that today. No, not us. We love paper magic, but it's not what we're playing today.
Not today.
What we did is one of our team members, Dan, asked you guys to submit as many of the fun, wackiest deck lists you have, and we're gonna have a look at them. We're gonna give them some ratings.
Yep, and not only that, you will also, any of you that get featured in this video, just go back to that comment, leave us your Cardmarket username, and we'll give you €5 in credit because you made this video awesome.
Yeah, so if you see yourself in this video, go back to that post, leave your Cardmarket username in the comments. We'll send you €5 on your Cardmarket account.
And while you go back there, and if you're not subscribed, go there, click the little red button, just subscribe. Shows us that this is what you want to see.
Exactly, and it helps us. Maybe we'll start doing this more often. Maybe we'll do it for Pioneer. Maybe we'll do it for Legacy. Who knows?
Yeah, but for now, let's get into the decks.
Deck number 1.
All right, Carl, the first deck is a spicy one. It's a real spicy one because it costs less than €1.
So you can get 5 of them with the money. Oh, so they can take the money we give them for this deck and buy this deck 5 times.
Basically, it's not a good deck. It's Lost in the Forest, Lost in the Woods deck. The deck consists of 55 forests, 4 Lost in the Woods, and 1 Sands of Delirium.
Ooh, I know Sands of Delirium, can you explain to us the card Lost in the Woods?
Lost in the Woods is a 5-mana enchantment that requires you to reveal the top card of your deck every time you get attacked by a creature. And if the top card of your deck is a forest, then the attacking creature doesn't deal any damage.
So your game plan is to just fog them every turn if you have a forest. If they attack you for 30 because you're not killing their creatures, and you just have a Sands of Delirium on top, you die.
Yeah, so also if you have another Lost in the Woods on top, you also die. You also have to get to 5 mana, not get the spell countered, and then somehow also Sands of Delirium them. So this is not a real deck.
If you want to be that person at your FNM, you can play this, and it'll cost you less than €1. But generally, would you recommend this at a...
No, but I'll give it a 3 out of 10 for effort.
What gives it the 3 points?
I don't know. My gut feeling.
I'll give it a 4. I'll give it a 5. 1 for every €1 we're giving them.
Nice.
Yeah, there you go. So Jamin, if you have 805 times the budget of Rage Queen Smith's deck, we have a submission from Lugaria, Bizarre Hollow One. Now, Lugaria was probably looking at all the cards in the deck and being like, which of these I name it after? Because it's all decks that make all cards that make their own archetypes. Yeah. You've got Madness in here. You've got Umori. Finally, someone giving Umori some love.
Yeah.
You've got Lot Love Troll for like zombies. You've got Bizarre Trade Mage, which is Bazaar of Baghdad. Yeah. If you want to pay 3 mana for it and only get it once, but you're also playing Blood Rage. If you're playing Vengevine, you're playing Hollow One. It also has Ox of Agonis.
Many iconic cards that have kind of that graveyard synergy going on. So you really, you're obviously relying on your graveyard. You're kind of mixing discard synergy with some of Dredge's best tools in Vengevine and Ox of Agonis.
Yeah, and in the sideboard, you even have like a bit of a backup plan, which we're not going to talk about now. Because the sideboards will be, if you look at the pinned comment below, we'll have the full deck list. We don't have time to talk too much about the sideboards right now, but this is just, it seems fun.
Yeah, then again,
if it's not powerful, it's at least fun.
Yeah, it's fun, but you will run into issues if you draw the wrong portion of your deck. Yeah. Umari isn't the best companion, like paying 7 mana only to have your creatures discounted by 1.
If you draw a Hollow One, a handful of Vengevines and Street Rafts, you're just gonna be really slow mid-range deck.
Yeah, if you're a Bazaar Trade Mage, discards your, I don't know, your Lot Left Troll, you're kind of sitting there with your Vengevine in hand, like, this was the one I was supposed to discard. Why not that one? Then again, if you Bloodbraid Elf into a Bazaar Trade Mage, bringing back your Vengevine instantly, drawing cards, discarding stuff, following it up with a Hollow One, you'll be having a blast.
Mostly, I feel like this person opened up Scryfall or Gatherer on the advanced search and looked up all the graveyard synergies, put them together, and for the effort that you put into this, Lugaria, I'm gonna give you a 9 on 10 on this one.
Yeah, feels good.
Because you won't win most of your games on an FNM, but when you do, oh my god, will everyone be standing around your table being like, what monster have you created?
It's a 9 out of 10 on the sweetness scale.
Yeah, the sweetness scale, which is the best of the scale.
Carl, our next one is actually relatively cheap, our next deck. It's a mono black version of Soulflare, submitted by Jay. It's just Jay on YouTube. I swear.
Jay?
No, it's just Jay.
But yeah, tell me more about this mono black Soul Flayer deck.
So you know Soul Flayer, it inherits abilities of creatures that exiled while it's delved its way onto the battlefield. So that requires you to have some creatures with sweet abilities in the graveyard. You've got the best of, no, actually that's not a best of black creatures. It's kind of the weird off with lots of keywords. Banehound, have you seen that in a constructed deck?
No, never before.
Never before. Nighthawk Scavenger was a hugely popular card back in preview season, but it turned out to be kind of a dud.
And in the end, yeah.
You've got Gurmag Swiftwing, which has the surprising combination of keywords of flying, haste, and first strike.
So after all these draft staples, Jamin, what are you playing to make them good?
Well, you're playing Stitcher Supplier, All-Star in
that
previous
is
graveyard
very
deck.
good, yeah.
You gotta get those keywords into the graveyard somehow. Ransack the Lab is basically a black version of, what's it called?
Look at the top 3 cards of your library, put 1 in your graveyard?
Nah, look at the top 3 cards of your library, put 1 to your hand, 2 into your graveyard.
No.
Nah, there's a blue card that does the same.
Yeah.
Anyways, you look at top 3 cards, put 1 to your hand, the others into your graveyard. And if those nasty keywords get stuck in your hand, you still have the Underworld Cookbook to get them out of your hand into the graveyard. And once you do that,
You're not playing Asmo.
You're not playing Asmo, no. You're only relying on Soul Flare to make up your late game. Also kind of nice side effect of playing Ransack the Lab is you get to dig for your Soul Flare.
Yeah.
And this is where the big payoff comes in. Ideally, you hit a Gurmag Swiftwing and something with lifelink, and then you just go to town, attacking for 4,
gain 4.
Yeah.
Problem is, can this deck give indestructible here? It's not playing Zapalta.
It cannot.
You
should, ideally, I think you should add some sort of indestructible or hexproof to this deck, because I really like the combination of haste and lifelink, but yeah, is Zapalta or something in there also.
But the thing is, this deck kind of offsets the cost and the inconsistency of playing a combo deck by only playing Swamp. So you'll always hit your mana base, so that's how it's kind of paying off.
Well.
But there's not a lot of black indestructible or hexproof creatures.
Yeah, exactly. So right now I say this deck from my side gets a 4 to 5 out of 10. If you can, I think with a bit more money, if you raise your budget a bit, you can upgrade this into a thing you can take to your FNM and have a good time.
Yeah, I would give this a 10 for fun, but then unfortunately I have to put down that by like 7 points, because you're gonna think you're gonna have fun with this at your FNM, and then you're just gonna get plowed every game while you're trying to beat down with a Gifted Etherborn and a Gurmag Swiftwing, and you're just gonna be like, why did I come with this glorified draft deck once you don't draw your Soul Flare or if they counter it?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, it looks like you're gonna talk about all the budget decks, including one under €1, and I'm gonna talk about all the expensive ones, because Admiral Vortex sent us a deck that's €945. He sent us Mono Red Tremors. It's playing some good cards, like Ragavan, which I hike up the price. Some questionable cards, like Nora and the Wary. But then you understand what's happening as soon as you get to some key artifacts in the deck. There's Genesis Chamber, and you're like, okay.
Yeah, we're dealing with...
Admiral Tremors really... No, Admiral Vortex really wants you to put creatures into play.
Yeah.
He really wants those ETB triggers.
And then when you get to the enchantments, you
see
kind of...
Impact Tremors. Now this deck is trying to do all the good red stuff by playing Fury, Seasoned Pyromancer, Goblin Rabblemaster, which put bodies on the ground, but also just do good stuff.
Yeah.
But once you have Impact Tremors, you start burning 1 damage for every ETB enters a battlefield creature trigger, and then that's where the damage starts rolling.
Yep. Also of note is Perforos, which is a lot more expensive than Impact Tremors, you know, double the mana, but it also deals double the damage per creature.
It does, and sometimes it just becomes a huge beater that can pump your team. But yeah, that's the original in cube. That's usually the Perforos is the one you use if you're playing the tokens list.
Yeah, true. And Narn the Worry is a card that you don't see every day, but it's really awesome in decks like this with Genesis Chamber, and suddenly like every turn you deal X damage.
Yeah.
Just because between Genesis Chamber and Norrin and Seasoned Pyromancer and everything going on, you get a lot of creatures.
I actually think this deck is pretty darn good.
Yeah,
you even
for sure.
have in the sideboard a lot of like a change of your whole game plan, which you'll see if you click in the comment below to see the whole deck list. But you've got a lot of angles you can take, and your cards are good in general.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you'll have Genesis Chamber, and Snaring Bridge, Impact Tremors, and you're gonna mulligan. That's what mulligan is there for. But I think you could actually have fun and potentially win some matches if you bring this to an event.
I definitely agree. Definitely, I think this is the best deck of the ones we've seen so far today.
I know this is an arbitrary system, so I feel like I'm going to give this a 13 on 10. Just because it was like 7 on the power level, maybe 6, but then on the fun level and on the nostalgia of really cool cards, it's just missing Chandra Torch of Defiance. But I know that if you're playing the Snaring Bridge, you can't.
Carl, you're breaking the immersion of our made-up scoring systems. I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10.
All right.
Carl, our next deck is spicy.
Is it?
It is. So there are a lot of creatures in Magic where you have downsides to them entering the battlefield, right?
Yeah.
They're not super common, but they exist. So Connor Lundy built a deck around the concept of playing all these creatures but shutting off their effects using Torpor Orb, which is like the oldest effect that shuts off enter the battlefield's effect. But also recently there were 2 more additions. One is Hushbringer, which they play 2 of, which just shuts down any enters the battlefield ability. And then even more recently there's Strict Proctor, which counters any enters the battlefield ability unless its controller pays 2 additional mana, which, I guess I won't pay.
Yeah.
You're just playing good creatures at this point. First up, a creature that doesn't have any enters the battlefield ability is Giver of Runes, which is just there to protect your other creatures from removal.
Your other Torpor Orbs as well, and your big beaters.
Yeah, exactly, so that's kind of needed. But then, you've got Hunted Horror. That's a 2-mana 7/7. Oh, your opponent gets 2 3/3s? No, they don't, because that doesn't trigger. Cruxa. It gets sacrificed when it enters the battlefield. No, it doesn't.
Now.
It's just a 2-mana 6/6. And guess what? When it attacks, it discards cards, because on entering the battlefield, it doesn't make your opponent discard a card.
You lose that ability.
Yeah. But and then finally, the fun of Eater of Days. 4-mana, 9/8 Flample.
Huge.
Sounds insane, but you lose 2 turns. You skip your next 2 turns, but you don't.
And if they kill them because your main strategy is kind of gone, you can claim to fame your creatures back.
I really like Claim to Fame in this deck because not only is granting haste to these huge trample threats great, but most of your creatures cost 2 or less.
Yeah.
And it also gives you the versatility of either reanimating your Torpor Orb or reanimating a Hunted Horror. Yeah, this is actually a deck I would be interested in playing. I'm not sure how good it would perform like in a tournament environment, but the main deck hate between Torpor Orb and Hushbringer that can just probably sometimes win you the game out of nowhere when decks are relying on their creatures entering the battlefield, combined with all the interesting angles and huge creatures in this deck, I don't know, it sounds exciting to me.
I would be interested in playing this in the feature match even.
Sure. One thing I would be wary of is I see a bunch of non-creatures here. I see 4 Torpor Orb, 4 Aether Vial, 3 Claim to Fame, and 2 Thoughtseize in a deck that does revolve around creatures a lot, so maybe I would cut maybe some Aether Vials or something. I'm not entirely certain here. I have no experience with playing this deck. And then also, Vexing Devil doesn't strike me as the crazy inclusion because it's a 1-mana 4/3. I can do better than a 4/3 creature on turn 2.
Usually the point of having 1-drops in your aggro deck is to curve out, but all your abilities that make him not so bad cost 2.
Yeah.
So you're not really getting. You want to land a Giver Runes or an Aether Vial on turn 1 or a Thoughtseize. Vexing Devil, not so much. Yes, okay, on turn 3, if you untap after having cast a Torpor Orb or a Strict Proctor, you can do 2-drop Vexing Devil. And with your Dark Confident, it doesn't deal you that much damage, but I don't feel it's the most exciting of additions to the deck.
Anyways, still an exciting deck. 10 out of 10 from me.
I'll give it a 8. Okay, finally, Jamin, have you ever been there at a tournament playing Storm and being like, you know what? No blue. I'm tired of blue. I'm done with blue.
No.
No, no one ever thinks that blue is fun. But if you do want to spice things up a little, Noah Robertson sent us a deck that's €350, but if you cut out the fetch lands, you can bring this to an FNM with a bit less consistency for about €130. But it's Thrasha Storm.
Yeah, Thrasha is a card we've not seen a lot of in Modern.
It is huge. It is a 7/7 trample haste, and it has hexproof as long as they enter the battlefield this turn. But usually people found it not to be as good of a payoff. I like how this deck does have a backup. You've got all the things to just cantrip creatures. So you're playing Arbor Elf, you're playing Burning Tree Emissary, Goblin Archmaster to make your things cost less. You're playing Metamorphose, Paratic Ritual, Mishra's Bauble. So you are gonna make that Thrasha cost not a lot. And if you don't have one of the 4 in your hand, you do have Summoner's Pact to go get him.
Summoner's Pact is such a beautiful card in this deck because you get your Thrasher and Thrasta, and it instantly costs 3 less.
Yeah, just for having cast that. And then if they have something to make your Thrasher irrelevant, you do have Chatterstorm. You do have 2 of Chatterstorm, and you do cycle through your deck pretty easily. So along with all the other spells you cast that give you mana, you've got Arbor Elf Utopia Sprawl package. So you do have a lot of mana to either pay for your Summoner's Pact or to just play as many spells as you can to cast a huge Chatterstorm. I do actually like, because if they can beat one Thrasher, then they can't beat you going wide with Squirrels. So I wouldn't say this deck is consistent, but because it's missing the blue from Storm, that usually helps you really
build up your hand to like have a payoff turn. But it's fast. It's damn fast. You can put out Thrasta as soon as turn 2. Turn 1 Arbor Elf, turn 2 cycle some Manamorphose, Summoner's Pact, whatever.
So turn 1 Arbor Elf, turn 2 Utopia Sprawl into Manamorphose or Burning Tree. Yeah, you can get this down to turn 2 easily.
Easy peasy. I also really like the inclusion of 3 Reckless Bushwhackers.
Yeah.
Just to make the Chatterstorms work.
It means sometimes it'll be an out-of-code because you can't do it at instant speed. You have to do it on your turn. But if you have a lot of mana save, and Reckless Bushwhacker needs you to play other spells this turn anyways to kind of be relevant, so you get to attack with a bunch of +1/+0 haste squirrels. If you get 8 of them into play, you win. If the Reckless Bushwhacker is your 9th spell, you win, which is pretty good.
Yeah. Pretty cool deck and looks like a lot of fun to play. I'll give it a 7 on the scale just because Thrasta is a 7/7.
That's a good way to value the deck.
So also has to have to give it a 7 because then it's 7.
7. Yeah, I can't reduce its power toughness. We'll both give this one a 7. Solid 7.
So this was a lot of fun. We saw a bunch of spicy decks. Some better than others, but some also much cheaper than others.
Yeah, there's a lot of really, really creative people out there. And listen, this is the first time we do this, looking at your deck list, a lot of really good ones, and kind of talking about discussing your submitted list. So if you do like it, leave comments about it. Leave comments about new deck lists you want to play. Like, subscribe. If you're not subscribed, maybe we'll start explaining some alchemy cards to you if you subscribe to. Just in general, just give us a feedback if you like it, and
then we can do it again.
Yep.
And until then, we'll see you next week.